Okay, 6.4, toward independence. Okay, so common sense. Remember the British abandoned Boston? So now 6.4, a couple things to point out. A traitor, over here, they're telling you a traitor is a person guilty of the crime of treason or disloyalty to the government. So that means that they're not loyal to the government. They don't do what they're supposed to do for the government. So they're a traitor. All right, so nearly a year passed between the skirmishes at Lexington and Concord and the British retreat from Boston. During that time, there was little talk of independence. Most colonists still considered themselves loyal British subjects. Their quarrel was not with Great Britain itself, but with its policies toward the colonies. So we still have a lot of people who are still loyal to Britain living there. And remember, they thought, okay, the British retreated, and so now everything's okay for now. This heading says the Olive Branch Petition. An olive branch is associated with peace. So olive branch, we believe, when you see an olive branch, that means that people are thinking about peace. And a petition is, remember, a bunch of signatures from people requesting something. So when I look at this heading, I think, oh, so people are going to be making a petition, something to sign off on about peace. So let's read this and find out. Many Americans pinned their hopes for peace on King George. In July 1775, Congress sent a petition to George III, asking him to end the quarrel. So all these people signed a thing and they wanted King George to end this discontent between Americans and Britain. John Adams called the petition an olive branch because of olive trees' branches are an ancient symbol of peace. By the time the petition reached London, however, the king had declared the colonies to be in open and avowed rebellion. So he said, before that petition could get over there and they could negotiate, he says, oh, they're traitors and they're not doing what the government wants them to do. So he orders his ministers to bring the traitors to justice. I wonder what that means. That could be shooting them. I don't know. Being called a traitor was enough to change the mind of one of Washington's generals. The general confessed that he had long looked with some degree of horror on this scheme of separation. Now he agreed with Patrick Henry that we must be independent or slaves. So some of these people are just kind of like, oh, we really don't want to be independent. We don't want it to come to that. But then when King George kind of lashes out, they decide that there has to be something that has to be done. Okay, so common sense. You can see this heading is in italics. So that means that it is either a book or a document, some sort of document, because you can see up here, this olive branch petition is not in italics. It's not leaning over. So many colonists, however, still looked with horror at the idea of independence. Then early in 1776, a patriot named Thomas Paine published a fiery pamphlet entitled Common Sense. A pamphlet is like a little piece of paper, not a little piece, but like a tri-folded piece of paper that just has short little snippets or information about an idea. So his idea was, he scoffed at the idea. That means he's like, oh, forget it. I don't believe that at all. So he's just like, that's totally wrong. So he scoffed at the idea that Americans owed any loyalty to King George. He says, of more worth is one honest man to society, he wrote, than all the crowned ruffians who ever lived. So a crowned ruffian, like a ruffian is kind of like a bully. And of course, they're talking about King George having a crown, and he's kind of a bully. And so he's putting him down by saying this. Paine also attacked the argument that the colonies' ties to Britain had benefited Americans. Just the opposite was true, he said. American trade had suffered under British control. Americans had also been hurt by being dragged into Britain's European wars. So he's providing like evidence or support why Americans should strive and try to get independence. Paine ended with a vision of an independent America as a homeland of liberty. Ye that love mankind, he urged, ye that dare oppose not only the tyranny but the tyrant, stand forth. The sun never shined on a cause of greater worth. So the tyrant, remember the tyrant is considered to be King George. Within a few months, more than 120,000 copies of Common Sense were printed. Paine's arguments helped persuade thousands of colonists that independence was not only sensible, but the key to a brighter future. So this was a very important document to get people who might have been loyal to Britain to help them to understand, like using common sense or understanding with this evidence to explain to them why it was important for us to fight for freedom against Britain. So this was a very important document. So try to remember that about this, okay? So it was a pamphlet, it's Common Sense.